Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to earthquakes. The magnitude of earthquakes is measured on the Mercalli scale. The magnitude is expressed in absolute numbers 0 to 10. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article makes a mention of the magnitude of the earthquake which is measured in Richter scale. Let us try and understand what are these options. When it comes to the first option, it says the magnitude of earthquake is measured on the Mercalli scale. This is a wrong statement. It is the intensity which is measured in Mercalli scale and it is not the magnitude because the magnitude is measured in the Richter scale. Now the question is, what is the difference between magnitude and intensity? When it comes to the magnitude, what does it do? It generally measures the energy that is released at the source of the earthquake. So as we speak about magnitude, it is about the energy release that happens at the point of the earthquake. But when it comes to the intensity is about the strength of shaking produced by the earthquake at a certain point. If it is close by to the epicenter, then larger will be the impact, and if it is away from the epicenter, its impact would be comparatively less. So when we speak about intensity, it is nothing but the damage caused by the earthquakes. It is determined by the impact it has on the people, the human structure and the natural environment. So remember, magnitude is determined from the measurements on the seismographs, but when it comes to intensity, it is about the damage. Intensity is measured by the Mercalli scale and magnitude is measured by the Richter scale. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Pradhana Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, which of the following statements are correct? The cost of houses should be shared between center and the states. Selection of beneficiaries is only based on housing deprivation parameters of socio and economic caste census 2011. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the PIB article. Let us try and understand what are these options. When it comes to the first option, the cost of houses would be shared between center and states. This is the right statement. What is the Pradhana Mantri Awas Yojana? This is about providing houses to the poor sections in the society. For those who do not have the Pakka houses, for those who are houseless, who do not have houses, or they have houses but it is in dilapidated condition, in such a position, houses would be provided by the government of India and the state governments both pitching in, infusing the finances. So the first statement is right because the cost of houses would be shared both by the center as well as the state government. Selection of beneficiaries is only based on housing deprivation. This is a wrong statement. Why? Because you also have the Grama Sabha coming into picture. There are other exclusion criteria as well. These exclusion criteria followed by the Grama Sabha verification will also have to be taken into picture. So it is not only on these census but you also have verification that is done by the Grama Sabha. There are other exclusion criteria that have been established as well. If they are able to meet all of this, that is when houses would be given to those whose names have been selected. So it is not only the SECC census but it also includes exclusion criteria as well as the Grama Sabha verification. When we speak about the Pradhana Mantri Awas Yojana, it also provides for the convergence of multiple schemes and programs. How? We have the number of schemes and programs initiated by the government of India. We have Manrega, which provides people job opportunities. So when we have people who are provided with houses under the Pradhana Mantri Awas Yojana, what they require is sustenance, what they require is livelihood, for which job opportunities would be provided under Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. They would also be provided livelihood support and opportunities under National Rural Livelihood Mission. They would be provided electricity connection. How? By different schemes of the Ministry of Power. They would be provided LPG as part of the Pradhana Mantri Ujjwala scheme, and toilet construction will also happen as part of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. In fact, drinking water connections will also be provided as part of the Jal Jeevan mission. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Kaiser I Hind was recently declared as state butterfly of Arunachal Pradesh. Its IUCN status is near threatened. Kaiser I Hind is protected under Schedule 2 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of Kaiser I Hind. Remember, UPSC in the past has asked questions about the state butterflies, so this can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Kaiser I Hind literally means the Emperor of India. This butterfly with a 90 to 120 wingspan is found in 6 states along the eastern Himalayas, which include Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, southern China. So remember, it is not only present in India, but it is also present in all these countries as well. This is protected as part of the Schedule 2 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. It is not Schedule 1, but instead it is Schedule 2. Why is that Arunachal Pradesh has named this butterfly as the state butterfly? That is because its numbers are dwindling. That is because it is dropping over a period of time. To protect them, to conserve them, and also pass it on to the future generation so that they enjoy the beauty of the nature. That is why it is being protected by declaring such a butterfly as the state butterfly, since it is present in very few pockets of Arunachal Pradesh and could become extinct in the near future, which is why it is declared as Arunachal state butterfly. When we speak about the IUCN status, its IUCN status is near threatened. Now let's look into the next practice question. Camo oileva, recently seen in news, is a new variant of coronavirus found in samples taken from Xinjiang region of China, a fossil of a new megaraptor in Patagonia, a near-Earth asteroid which could be a fragment of our moon, a most advanced human robo. The answer to this is it is a near-threatened asteroid which could be a fragment of our moon. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a mention of the near Earth asteroid. So what is it? This is nothing but a near Earth asteroid which could be a fragment of the moon, and because of its small size it is also called as quasi satellite. So what is a quasi satellite? It is a space rock that which follows the earth in a similar orbit around the sun, and that which stays very close to the earth as well. So this happens to be a subcategory of near earth asteroids that orbit the sun but remain very close to the earth. Recently, there was a study that was conducted by a journal called as Communications Earth and Environment. According to it, they go on to say that this near Earth asteroid was once part of the moon which might have drifted away from the moon, and that is why it is also called as the quasi satellite. So remember, it could have been broken away from the moon due to a possible impact and gone on to orbit the sun rather than the earth like its parent, that is the moon. Now let's look into the next practice question. In India, it is legally mandatory for which of the following to report on cybersecurity incidents? Service providers, data centers, body corporate. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. First, let us try and understand what is this cyber security incident. Cyber security incident is a larger picture. It is an objective criterion when it comes to the cyber issues. What happens? There are words that you might have heard called as breach. Is breach part of the cyber security incident? Yes. What happens in breach? There might be a security loophole which have been exploited by the hackers or the so-called people who are experts in the cyber security domain. So a breach occurs when a loophole is already exploited. But what happens in a cybersecurity incident? A cybersecurity incident is also one where there might be hackers who try to exploit, there might be a virus which would try to break the security architecture, but there are ethical hackers who break them, who prevent them, and an organization successfully repels such a cyber attack. So what happens? A cybersecurity incident includes where a body, where an organization, where a public authority is able to repel an action from the hackers, and at the same time it also includes the breach as well. So cybersecurity incidents is a larger term where breach is one of the aspect of cybersecurity. What are the examples? Let's say for example there are attempts to gain unauthorized access to a system where you do not have access to that particular system, the owner has not given consent to that particular system, the hacker tries to steal the information, or there is a change that is brought about in a software or a hardware without the consent of the owner, or there is a malicious disruption, or there is denial of service. All of this falls under the cyber security incident. In India, what we have is the Information Technology Act of 2000. There is one of the important sections called as section 70B. What happens according to this section 70B? It goes on to say that the central government, by releasing a notification, can appoint one of the agencies, and this agency would be helping India in the incident response, and that incident response team happens to be called as CERT. What is CERT here? CERT stands for the central government appointed body called as Computer Emergency Response Team. Further, we have rules for the operation of CERT. We have one of the important rules called as Rule 12, according to which it is this body CERT which will have a collaboration with multiple agencies in India. For example, it shall collaborate with organizations which are present in India. It can be public or it can be private. It can discuss with multiple organizations who are engaged in collection of intelligence, law enforcement, investigation and forensics. It can also speak to industry and academia. It can also speak to individuals, service providers, data centers, as well as body corporates. In case there are any cybersecurity issues, they will start speaking to CERT, and suitable actions can be taken up for all the cybersecurity incidents. So cybersecurity incident is a larger picture. It can include a breach where it is already exploited, or it can also include a phase where it is repelled by an organization as well. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Dimmasa National Liberation Army. What is this Dimmasa National Liberation Army? This happens to be an insurgent group. Where does it operate? It operates in Dima Hasao and Karbi Anglong districts of Assam, and this was formed in the year 2019. Why are we discussing this? That is because as many as 46 cadres of the Dimmasa National Army along with their commander-in-chief have laid down their arms and have surrendered to the government in Assam, and they have said that they would want to join the mainstream and discontinue their violent activities. Let us try and understand what are the objectives of this particular group. As we discussed, this happens to be an insurgent group where it is operating in Assam. What is the objective of creating such an insurgent group? Basically, they wanted to revamp the national struggle. They also wanted to fight for the liberation of a sovereign, independent Dimmasa nation. So, who are the Dimmasas? What is this Dimmasa nation? Basically, you have the Dimmasas who are the earliest known rulers and settlers of Assam. They live in multiple districts in the present state of Assam. Prior to the Ahom rule that we had in Assam, we had the Dimmasas who were assumed to be the descendants of the ancient Kamarupa kingdom. They had large swathes of land under their control in Assam. Their historical capital happened to be Dimapur, and later Maibang happened to be its capital as well. So what is the objective? The objective of this insurgent group was to establish the sense of brotherhood among all these Dimmasas, create faith among these Dimmasas, and ultimately come up with the Dimmasa nation. Now, this insurgent group has given up its arms, which means that one of the active insurgent group in Assam is giving up its arms, and there could be establishment of peace in the state of Assam. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So, this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.